Greetings, my beloved Black people. Welcome back to the plight and struggle of Black people in America. Today is February 3rd, 2023, and it's the 47th year of Black History Month. I know there's some older people say 47 years seem like it's been around longer than that. Well, Black History Month has been around for 47 years, but for 50 years before that, we were acknowledging Negro History Week. And that was started by a brother named Carter G. Woodson. And what's so unfortunate and so sad, we acknowledge Black History Month that evolved out of Negro History Week because of a brother named Carter G. Woodson. And this brother, he was the child of former enslaved Black Americans in the state of Virginia. And this brother, in 1926, decided he know that most of our Black people know very little about our greatness, not just in our world history, our dynasties in Africa and what have you, even in this nation. So many of our Black people, even today, aren't aware of the great things we've done right here in this country. Sadly, again, so many of our Black Americans in this nation don't even know who Carter G. Woodson was. And that's unfortunate, but we can change and improve and do all the things that we need to do collectively as a people. And I know we will. You see, because we're at the threshold of uniting collectively as a people to contribute to our well-being and betterment collectively as a people. Yeah, that's the trail we're on. So, with that being said, for 47 years, it's been Black History Month because, see, Carter G. Woodson founded Negro History Week in 1926. And it changed 50 years later, 1976, to Black History Month. What was going on between 26 and 76, 1926, 1976? You see, somewhere in the early 1900s, late 1800s, surely even sooner, Black people have been indoctrinated in this nation to believe and allow ourselves to be influenced as to what we would call ourselves. And I'm sure, we had to deal with so many situations that, especially then, even now, our choices could determine life and death. Just simple choices, just like today. As far as the way it can easily happen to us that way. We've been done so bad for so long. But anyway, like I said, Black History Month evolved out of Negro History Week due to our brother, Carter G. Woodson, who his parents had been formerly enslaved in the state of Virginia. And he was actually the second Black person to get a PhD in American history from Harvard University. W.B. Du Bois was the first. And this brother, Carter G. Woodson, he decided that he's going to break the curse, if you would call it that, of our being so ignorant of our greatness. Because you can just imagine a brother that was doing those great things in this country in 1926, you've got to imagine there was a lot of hate aimed at him from the racist people in this nation. The brother got his PhD at the age of 27 from Harvard, and the brother founded Negro History Week at the age of 51. You see, that leads to some of the conversation about how they recognize that if our brothers and sisters live long enough, we'll come up with the solutions for our collective problems. And see, and when Carter G. Woodson was doing his thing, we had other brothers during that same era, which was in the 1800s primarily, which was the 19th century. which was also W.B. Du Bois and Brother Marcus Garvey from Jamaica. You see, those racists felt like, black people aren't going to do this, aren't going to do that. They even felt like we were incapable of so many things. And they looked at these brothers lightly, even with their accomplishments. But sadly and unfortunately, by the time it got to brothers like Fred Hampton, Medgar Evers, Martin Luther King, and Malcolm X, when they took Brother Carter G. Woodson's work and Marcus Garvey's work and W.B. Du Bois' works for granted that Black people would never do what we need to do collectively, like we're at the threshold of it now. We're at the threshold now of uniting, you see, and the thoughts have been that we couldn't and wouldn't. But when they end up seeing what brothers Carter G. Woodson, W.B. Du Bois, and Marcus Garvey had done in that 18th century, which was the 1800s, which was the 19th century, by the time it got to the 20th century and the 1900s, when you had brothers evolve like Fred Hampton out of Chicago, Medgar Evers out of Jackson, Mississippi, Malcolm X, originally from Nebraska, but evolved to the east, northeast, and New York. And we had Martin Luther King also. We know all these brothers so well. You see, so then you get to the point where these racist people in power look at what our brothers did in the 1800s, and it got to the point, okay, let's take W.B. Du Bois. I think that brother lived to be like 92. Marcus Garvey, I think, was like 53. And then I think Carter G. Woodson was like 75, something like that. So they've seen that if you allow the brothers, and also sisters, we have many, Ida B. Wells, Mary McLeod Bethune, and many more, that yes, they can and will achieve their goals collectively for their people. And then sadly, I'm sure that contributed greatly to the murders of our several brothers. And in this case, we're talking about the youngest, Fred Hampton in Chicago, Fred Hampton Sr. They murdered this brother. When I say they, I'm talking about Chicago Police Department and the FBI. And it's documented, well documented. These people murdered Fred Hampton at the tender age of 21. So they'll show you how they don't care of the age or none of that. And it's interesting, this brother was the youngest and they killed him last. They killed Medgar Evers first, 1963, I believe, in Jackson, Mississippi, right at his doorstep. They had a fella cross the road, sniped him like an animal, right at his doorstep with his family, children, wife, and everybody would see him die right there in front of his house. And I believe next was Malcolm X. And you know the story pretty much on Malcolm X. Now, you hear a lot of talk about who did and who didn't kill Malcolm X. Okay, but one thing that I feel certain and assured of, it was somebody Black that pulled the trigger. Now, somebody will say he's FBI, but if he was Black, the FBI status or whatever else shouldn't come into play. So I'm certain the hands that pulled the trigger on the guns, if they were NOI or not, it was somebody Black pulling triggers. Okay, and then we have Martin Luther King Jr., where he was, Malcolm X was murdered in 1965. And then we have Martin Luther King, who was murdered in 1968, which in Memphis, okay, which is a lot going on with Memphis right now. And then that was in 1968. Then in 1969 is when they murdered Fred Hampton at the age of 21. So I guess that was closure for them. The intention was to destroy us, as far as destroying those organizations to some degree, but I'm gonna say damage greatly. But I mean, they get away with murder, literally. And it's so sad and unfortunate. Shout out to Sister Sada Shakur in Cuba. That's interesting. Quite a story. If you know her story, you'll be proud of that sister. So, like I said, this is the 47th year of Black History Month officially. But if you throw in Negro History Week, that 50-year front, that's 97 years. And it's sad. This brother, Carl G. Woodson, did this work that developed to what it is now 97 years ago. And from people I talk to of all ages, and especially adults, well, the adults don't know it, the children likely don't know it either. The vast majority of our people don't even know who Carter G. Woodson is or how the situation of Black History Month came to be and all of that. So just FYI. Okay, like I say, it started out Negro History Week in 1926. But what happened was, in 1976, 50 years later, Caucasians in this nation had huge celebrations going on all over the nation. I mean, I wasn't doing a lot of traveling then, but I was in Philadelphia, state of Pennsylvania, and they had it on the license plate, bicentennial, I suspect all over the nation for sure. And so that was 1776 when when this country here was able to develop until its independence because of the situation going on with the United Kingdom. In 1776, they were able to get their independence from that. And so in 1976, they're celebrating furiously, all in our face. And we're like, wait a minute, that's nothing for us to celebrate. 1776, we were still in enslavement here. So that's nothing for us to celebrate. So then the brothers and sisters got together and said, I tell you what, we're going to go ahead and get, instead of Negro History Week, we're going with Black History Month. Because like I said, between that 26 and 76, 1926 and 1976, Black people were evolving and came to that point in the struggle in the 60s of the Black Power movement. You feel me? That was going on. So when they came up with all this talk in 1976, how proud they were to be free from the United Kingdom, like we said, in 1776, we weren't free or out of bondage or none of that. So yeah, that's what we got out of that. So thanks to Brother Carter G. Woodson for coming up with Negro History Week, because we have been indoctrinated to feel and think about ourselves as such. So since the brother built his thing, Negro History Week, because the other sisters and brothers along the way, once my man was an ancestor, and we appreciate his work, and we know the power of his work and intent and goodness of his work, it was like, oh, no, that ain't nothing for us to celebrate. Y'all celebrate your independence. We'll get Black History Month and trade in Negro History Week. And yeah, and now that's history, our history. Yeah, Black people, it's all good. We love each other. We're going to show that love more and more, do so many more good things with our family and children and Black unity. What will happen in this nation? Black people unite with the mindset of doing it for our well-being and betterment collectively. When we live like that, what happens is collectively Black people in this nation will thrive rather than merely survive. That's what that is.